Have you ever felt so small that even breathing seemed like a privilege you didn't deserve? That's how I felt every single day for 6 months. My name is Ruth. I'm 24 years old. I graduated in business administration with academic distinction, and I worked as a housemaid in the home of a businessman named Daniel Almeida. Before I start, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments which country you're watching from. Your participation keeps this community alive. I wasn't there because I had no options or lacked qualifications. I was there because life, that unpredictable and sometimes cruel force, pushes us into places we never imagined we'd be. Places that challenge our identity, test our resilience, and make us question everything we thought we knew about ourselves. My mother was sick, stage 3 cancer. The hospital bills came in like relentless waves, one after another, drowning any hope of financial stability. My father had left when I was 12, leaving behind only blurry memories and an emptiness I learned to carry alone. And I, with my framed diploma stored in a shoebox under my bed, had bills to pay that wouldn't wait for perfect resumes or job interviews that never came. I sent out more than 200 applications, 200, and got only 3 replies, all of them rejections. You don't have enough experience. We're looking for someone with a different profile. We'll keep your resume in our database. Polite lies, rejections wrapped in pretty paper. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Teresa, who told me about the job. A good house, Ruth, a respectable man, pays well. You should try. I hesitated. Of course I did. I spent 4 years in college, woke up at 5 in the morning to catch 3 buses, studied until late at night, graduated top of my class. And now I was going to clean someone else's house? But then I looked at my mother. I looked at that strong woman who had raised me alone, who worked 3 jobs to give me an education, and who now lay bedridden, pale, fighting an invisible enemy inside her own body. And I understood. Pride doesn't pay hospital bills, a diploma doesn't buy medicine, so I accepted. Daniel was a good man. I could tell from the first day. He had those kind eyes, the kind that actually see you when they look at you. He didn't stare through me as if I were a piece of furniture. He didn't treat me as if I were invisible. He asked about my degree, seemed genuinely impressed. Business administration? Top of your class? Ruth, that's amazing. I'm sure you'll be working in a big office soon. I smiled. A sad smile, but an honest one. I hope so, sir. Please call me Daniel. For the first 3 weeks, I thought I had found a decent place, an honest job with a respectful boss. But I was wrong, because Daniel had a girlfriend. And that woman named Mariana, turned my life into a hell that even Dante couldn't describe. Until one day, the silence broke. And when it did, it felt like the whole world stopped to watch. Nothing was ever the same again. And now I'm going to tell you exactly how it all happened. Mariana came into my life like a hurricane wearing Louboutin heels and perfume that was far too expensive to be subtle. It was a Friday afternoon. Daniel had warned me that morning, his tone now so clear in hindsight, slightly anxious. Ruth, my girlfriend's going to stay here for a few days. Just do your work as usual, okay? It sounded like a disguised warning. I should have paid more attention. She arrived at 4 in the afternoon, driving a red convertible that looked like it had rolled straight out of a luxury magazine. Perfectly straight hair, flawless nails, designer clothes that probably cost more than 6 months of my salary. Was she beautiful? Yes, undeniably. The kind of beauty society worships: tall, slim, perfect skin, symmetrical features. But there was something in her eyes, something cold, calculating, cruel. She walked in without saying hello, looked around as if inspecting a hotel and had already decided it didn't meet her standards. Then her eyes landed on me. I was in the kitchen, finishing up dinner. I smiled politely. Good afternoon. My name's Ruth. Nice to meet you. She didn't answer. She just looked me up and down slowly, like she was examining a particularly unpleasant insect. Then she turned to Daniel and said, loud enough for me to hear, "You didn't tell me she was like that." "Like what?" Daniel asked, confused. "Ordinary, plain. I thought you had better standards, even when it comes to hiring maids." I felt my face burn. Daniel looked uncomfortable. "Mariana, don't what? Be honest? Look, I'm not judging you, babe. I just think a house like this deserves, I don't know, someone more presentable." I swallowed hard, kept cutting the vegetables, pretending I hadn't heard. But I had. Every word, every sharp syllable. And that was only the beginning. During the first month, it was all about the looks. That kind of stare that pierces through your skin and messes with your self-esteem. Looks that tell you, without a single word, that you're not welcome, that you're being tolerated out of necessity, that you're there out of someone else's pity. Whenever I walked through the living room, she watched me as if I might leave dirty marks on the freshly cleaned floor. When I served the table, she'd slightly push her plate away, as if my presence could somehow contaminate it. By the second month, those looks turned into words. "Did you wash this glass properly? It smells weird. Smells like you. Don't touch me. Your hands are dirty. You look like you came from the sewer. Look at me, Ruth. Look closely. I'm a woman of class, a woman who takes care of herself, who's educated, who knows how to behave. You're just a little maid. Do you understand the difference?" I bit my tongue until I tasted blood. I lowered my head. I took deep breaths, counting to 10, to 20, to 100. And I kept working, because I needed that job, because my mother depended on me, because medicine doesn't pay for itself, because I foolishly believed that enduring humiliation was part of the price I had to pay to survive in this unfair world. The days that followed became a blur of silent pain and systematic humiliation. Mariana didn't stop. She escalated, intensified, turned cruelty into a macabre form of art. She'd wake up early just to start her day yelling at me. She invented flaws in my work. She'd purposely knock things over to make me clean again. She hid objects and then accused me of stealing them. "Ruth, where's my pearl necklace? You stole it, didn't you?" "No, ma'am, I would never. Liar! Thief! I'm calling the police." Minutes later, she would find the necklace exactly where she had left it, but she never apologized. She only laughed, a sharp, high-pitched laugh that echoed through the house like the sound of glass breaking. She called me pig, trash, lazy, useless, failure. Said I was ugly, stupid, incompetent, that I smelled bad, that I polluted the air she breathed. And she did all of that in front of Daniel. Daniel, who pretended not to hear, who lowered his eyes, who walked out of the room, who chose silence. And that silence hurt more than any insult she could scream. Because when someone you respect, someone you thought was decent, chooses silence in the face of injustice, you start to internalize a dangerous lie. Maybe you deserve what's happening. Maybe you really are inferior. Maybe she's right. I started to doubt everything. My intelligence, my dignity, my worth as a human being. My diploma felt like a cruel joke. 4 years of intense study, sleepless nights, endless sacrifices. For what? To be treated like I was less than nothing? I stopped looking at myself in the mirror. I couldn't bear to see the woman I was becoming, bent, quiet, faded. One night, after a particularly brutal day, Mariana had pushed me again, this time making me drop an entire tray of expensive dishes, which she then made me pay for by deducting it from my salary. I locked myself in the bathroom and broke down. I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried since my father's death. I cried until my throat burned, until my eyes swelled until I had no tears left to shed. I looked at the mirror fogged by the steam from the shower, and I didn't recognize the woman staring back. She looked ghostly, colorless, lifeless, her eyes sunken, surrounded by dark circles, her face too thin. I had lost nearly 18 pounds in 3 months without realizing it. My shoulders slumped, as if they were carrying the weight of every insult, every humiliation. Who was that woman? Where was Ruth? The Ruth who graduated with honors? The Ruth who dreamed of owning her own business? The Ruth who believed in herself? She was gone, replaced by this empty shell. And then, in that moment of absolute despair, I remembered something. A conversation. A lesson. My mother, still healthy then, years ago, holding my face in her hands after I came home crying because a teacher had humiliated me in front of the class. Ruth, my daughter, listen carefully and never forget this. You were born with your own light. A light that shines from within. No matter how dark the night gets, that light is still there. But you have to protect it. Don't let anyone put out that light. Because without it, you're not you. And then I understood, with a clarity that cut through the fog of despair. I had been letting it happen. I was letting that woman, that high-heeled monster, erase everything I was, everything I had achieved, all the love my mother had poured into me, all the dignity I was taught to carry, and that couldn't go on. Then I remembered something else. My grandmother, on her deathbed, holding my hand with surprising strength for someone so fragile, looking deep into my eyes and saying, "Ruth, you're going to meet cruel people in this life. People who will try to tear you down to make themselves feel taller. And you'll have 2 choices. You can bow down or you can stand tall. But always remember, those who stay silent in the face of injustice become accomplices to it. Don't ever be an accomplice to your own destruction." That night, sitting on the cold bathroom floor, I made a decision. I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. I wasn't going to bow. I wasn't going to be an accomplice. If I was going to leave that house, I'd do it with my head held high. And if Mariana wanted to destroy me, she'd have to face me head on. Because the Ruth who walked into that house had died, and someone far more dangerous was about to be born. A woman with nothing left to lose. The next morning, I woke up different. Not physically stronger, my body still hurt from the pushing, the falls, the constant tension. But mentally something had changed. For the first time in months, I felt my own anger. And instead of repressing it, instead of swallowing it like I always did, I embraced it. Anger isn't always bad. It can be fuel. It can be the difference between accepting injustice and fighting back. And I was ready to fight. I got up early, took a shower, put on my best dress, simple but clean and dignified, combed my hair, looked in the mirror, and for the first time in weeks, the woman looking back at me had a spark in her eyes. A dangerous spark. Mariana woke up in a bad mood, as always. She yelled from the bedroom, "Ruth, where's my coffee? Are you deaf?" I made the coffee, brought it on a tray, set it gently on the table beside her bed. She sat up, took the cup, took a sip, and spat it out. "This is disgusting. Can't you even make coffee properly? What kind of stupid, incompetent idiot are you?" I took a deep breath. "The coffee is perfect, ma'am. Maybe the problem is with your taste." Silence. She blinked, as if she couldn't believe what she had just heard. "What did you say?" "I said the coffee is perfect. I made it exactly how you like it. If it tastes bad, that's not my fault." Her face turned red with rage. "How dare you talk back to me?" "Daring is treating me like trash every day. I'm just responding in kind." She jumped out of bed so fast, she knocked over the cup. The dark coffee spread across the white sheets like blood. "You'll pay for this. You'll pay dearly." But I didn't move. I didn't step back. I just looked her in the eyes, steady. And for the first time, I saw something new in hers. uncertainty. She expected me to bow, to apologize, to shrink back into my place. But I didn't. All day long she tried to provoke me. She yelled, she cursed, she threw things on the floor for me to clean up. But I did everything in silence, showing no emotion, giving her no satisfaction of seeing me break. And that only enraged her more. By late afternoon, Daniel came home from work. Mariana ran to him, dramatizing everything. "Babe, you need to fire that maid. She's being disrespectful. She talked back to me, looked at me with contempt. She's impossible." Daniel looked tired. "Mariana, not today, please." "What do you mean, not today? Are you not listening? She has to go." "I'll talk to her, okay? We'll discuss it later." Mariana huffed, frustrated, but didn't push it further. That night, while I was washing the dinner dishes, Daniel walked into the kitchen. "Ruth, can we talk?" My heart raced. I thought I was about to be fired. "Yes, sir." He sighed. "Look, I know things have been difficult. I know Mariana can be complicated." Complicated. What a kind euphemism for a tormentor. "Are you happy here?" The question caught me off guard. Happy? How could I be happy? But then I looked at Daniel. At that man who had always been kind to me, but who had chosen silence when I needed a voice the most. And I decided to be honest. "No, sir, I'm not." "Because of Mariana?" "Because of Mariana, and because of you." "Because of me?" "You see it, you know it, but you don't do anything, and that hurts more than any insult she can throw at me." Daniel lowered his eyes. "You're right, I haven't been fair to you. I thought she would change." "People like her don't change, sir. They just find new victims." We stood in silence for a moment. Then he said something that surprised me. "You're stronger than you look, Ruth." "I'm not strong, sir. I'm just tired of being weak." He gave me a sad smile. "That's the same thing." That night, lying in my small bed in the maid's room, I knew something was about to happen. I could feel it in the air, that electric tension before the storm. And the storm came the next morning, fast, violent, transformative, and it changed everything forever. It started with a scream, a sharp, desperate scream that tore through the house like lightning splitting the sky. "Ruth, come here right now!" I froze in the laundry room, holding a damp towel in my hands. For a brief second, I thought about not going, pretending I hadn't heard. But I knew that would only make things worse. I took a deep breath and walked toward the voice. Mariana was in the living room, standing in front of the shattered remains of a porcelain vase. It had been one of her most prized possessions, a gift from her grandmother, she always said. "You broke it!" she yelled, pointing at the shards. "No, ma'am, I wasn't even in here." "Don't you dare lie to me!" Her eyes were bloodshot, her hair messy, her whole body trembling. Something about her felt unhinged, like a storm that had finally reached its breaking point. "You think you can disrespect me in my own house? You think you can mock me, make me look stupid in front of my husband? I'll show you your place." Before I could even react, she raised her hand. And the slap came. A slap so hard, it made my ears ring and the room blur for a moment. I staggered back, my cheek burning, my body shaking. Daniel, hearing the commotion, rushed into the room. "Mariana, what the hell are you doing?" "She deserved it," she screamed. "She's a liar, a snake, a manipulative witch." Daniel stepped between us, holding her back. "You've lost your mind." She was out of control, screaming, crying, kicking the broken pieces of the vase. "She's trying to steal you from me. Don't you see? That's what she wants. She wants to ruin us." I stood there, silent. For the first time, I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't lower my head. I just felt sorry for her. Because in that moment, it was clear. She wasn't powerful. She wasn't superior. She was just broken. A woman consumed by her own bitterness. Daniel turned to me, his voice soft, trembling. "Ruth, are you okay?" I looked at him, and all the anger, all the fear, all the humiliation I had swallowed over the past months turned into something calm, a calm so deep it scared me. "Yes, sir, I'm fine. But I can't stay here anymore." Mariana let out a bitter laugh. "Of course you can't. I'm firing you." I met her gaze, steady. "You don't have to. I quit." Daniel opened his mouth as if to say something, but I stopped him. "There's nothing left to say. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope you both find peace. Someday." I turned, walked to my small room, packed my things, a few clothes, a photo of my mother, and my books. I didn't look back. Not once. When I walked out that door, I felt the weight of months lift off my shoulders. The sky outside looked brighter, the air lighter, even the street noises sounded like freedom. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know where I was going. But I knew one thing for sure. I was never going to let anyone treat me that way again. I spent the following days at a friend's house until I found another job, this time in a small cafe owned by a kind widow who treated her employees like family. It wasn't fancy. It didn't pay much, but it was honest, peaceful, human. For the first time in a long while, I woke up without fear. Months went by. One afternoon, while serving coffee to a table, I saw a familiar figure walk in. Daniel. He looked different, older, tired, carrying an invisible weight. When he saw me, he froze. "Ruth." I nodded politely. "Mr. Daniel." He smiled faintly. "I just wanted to see how you're doing." "I'm fine, sir. Better, actually." He looked down. "Mariana left. She's getting help. Therapy. I should have done something sooner." I didn't say anything. After a moment, he said quietly, "I'm sorry, Ruth, for everything." I met his eyes. "I forgave you a long time ago." He nodded, and with that, he left. No dramatic goodbye, no unnecessary explanations, just the silence of closure. When the door closed behind him, I felt a peace I hadn't felt in years. Because forgiveness, I finally understood, isn't about excusing what they did. It's about freeing yourself from what they did to you. Life slowly went back to normal. I rebuilt myself piece by piece. I started studying again, little by little, taking night classes. And every time I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman who had survived. A woman who had been burned to ashes, and yet somehow learned to rise again. Not stronger, necessarily, but more conscious, more grounded, more herself. One morning, as I was opening the cafe, a young girl came in, nervous and shy. She asked if I knew of any job openings. Her hands were trembling, and her voice cracked as she spoke. She reminded me of myself, the me who had once stood at the door of a stranger's house, desperate for a chance. I smiled gently and said, "I think we can find a place for you." She smiled back, relieved, and for a second, I saw hope flicker in her eyes. That same fragile, beautiful light my mother had told me about. And I knew, deep inside, that the cycle was finally broken. Because sometimes, justice doesn't come in the form of revenge or punishment. Sometimes, justice is just surviving and refusing to become like the ones who hurt you. My name is Ruth, and this was my story. If you've listened this far, tell me, what would you have done in my place? Where are you listening to this story from? My name is Jessica, and I'm passionate about stories of real lives, stories of pain, strength, and transformation. Because in the end, we all carry a little light inside us, and no matter how dark it gets, that light never truly dies.